Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Good to see you all. Welcome to another Chicago TARDIS 2020 virtual panel. This time, Doctor Who role-playing games in a virtual environment. I'm Stephen Warren Hill, your Chicago TARDIS co-host, along with my buddy, Nick Seidler.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all again. I just wanted to give everyone an update and let them know that we do have some additional vendor highlights from our Artist Alley that have been posted on the Facebook page. So check that out if you want to see some of the artists that we regularly have here in person. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that. So back to you, Steve.
Okay, I don't really have a lot of housekeeping to do right now. So we're going to just jump right in, and I am going to introduce you to your panel host, Libby Shea. Libby, take it away.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Nick. Hey, everyone. My name is Libby Shea. If you've been to Chicago TARDIS On-Site, you've probably seen all of us actually in the game Citadel. I am the manager of the room, and I'm here with Jenna Hull and Jack Hessler, who are also fellow gamers. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves.
Sure. My name's Jack Kessler. As Libby was saying, I've been game mastering at Chicago TARDIS for a few years now. I'm a longtime gamer, 40 plus years on. Not always Doctor Who, but Doctor Who has been a very important part of my gaming experience. Jenna?
Hi, my name's Jenna Hull. I've been helping out with Doctor Who in the Chicago TARDIS game room for 3 years now. And ironically enough, I've been role-playing in Doctor Who for 3 years as well, and have just started to venture into game mastering this year.
Yeah, this should be a lot of fun with you guys. We will start off with talking a little bit about role-playing. And for anyone that doesn't understand role-playing, we'll also talk about some of the systems that are in the Doctor Who universe, because there's quite a few. And then we'll see where the conversation goes. So Jack, if you want to start explaining kind of the different systems, I know that you're quite well versed in the different systems.
Well, I am, and I've got a little display here to help me out here. So Doctor Who role-playing, the initial RPG was first introduced in the 1980s by a company called FASA here in Chicago. And actually, so there were a couple of different variations. They were used a specific system that was sort of custom to them, and being state-of-the-art 80s technology for RPGs, used tables to determine everything pretty much. Later on in the late 80s and 90s, there was another version called Time Lord, which was a paperback, which was published as part of the, I think it was the Virgin Publishing imprint. Interesting thing about this particular version of the role-playing game is that you had stats to play the Doctor, some of the companions, but there weren't actually any character creation rules, which was an oversight that the author has since corrected for online supplements. And you can actually still find this available on certain sites online, available pretty much free of charge. And then currently we have the Doctor Who Adventures in Time and Space put out by Cubicle 7, which is a 2d6 dice system, and obviously focused more on the modern era, though they do have source books for older Doctors, as well as source books for all the new ones as well, with a lot of ideas based on the episodes and various like adventure seeds that you can use to generate your own stories. And this one came about in the 2010s, so it's a wide variety of different experiences for Doctor Who role playing over the years.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of really good systems. I know that for us, for our game group at home, we do a kind of homebrew version of what the FASA game is. We have a group of friends that got together and created this beautiful Excel spreadsheet that helps out a lot with character is based around character creation, honestly. But our game itself is, you create the character, that's what you have to go off of. And then, you can take stories from any of the source books, or you can create your own worlds, your own universe. I mean, we've gone everywhere from completely custom worlds to, insert group here into whatever fandom you like. Like we've gone to Hogwarts before multiple times. We've gone to Hyrule for Legend of Zelda. We've done so many different ones, Firefly. And all of it's more based around the character sheet, where if you have a character, it's kind of like have character will travel kind of thing. It's very simple to be picking up. And actually we are running 2 of those RPGs this weekend. If anyone's interested, there's information on how to sign up on the Facebook pages. Go ahead and email us. Let us know what games you want to play in. We still have a couple of slots left, not too many, but we've got a couple of spots left if anyone's interested. If you've never role played before, it's not a big deal. We will teach the system as we go.
And that's tonight at 8 and tomorrow
Yeah, the
at 8 as
game.
well.
Yep, both games are at 8 p.m. tonight and tomorrow. So that should be a good time. We're looking forward to it. I'll be running tonight's game, and then one of our other staff members, Nick Orchard, will be running the second game. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Jack, what other systems do you play in other than Doctor Who?
I've played in a lot of systems. Currently, I'm game mastering some Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, some Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition. Still have a long-standing game in that earlier edition that's still going on. I've done using the new Cortex system. I've done a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen type game. I've got and I'm playing in a couple of different varieties of Cthulhu horror type games. One actually doing Call of Cthulhu, one using Trail of Cthulhu with the Gumshoe system. So I've played in a number of other things over the years, but that's highlights of what I'm currently doing.
And Jenna, what about you? What other systems have you played in?
The main other system that I've played in is called the Mass System, based around kind of like teenage superheroes and them discovering themselves. And then coming up in December, I will get to play in my first Dungeons and Dragons game with Dungeons and Dragons 5e.
Nice. So Masks, I think that is a Powered by the Apocalypse game. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. Where you're trying to roll, I think, between a 10 and a 12 to have really good stuff happen. 7 to 9, you're doing okay, and 6 and under, things have gone terribly wrong.
Yes, nice.
So for anyone on Facebook, we do have a question. How do you sign up for the RPGs if you don't have Facebook? You can email donahuee@gmail.com and let us know which game you want to play in. The instructions to sign up are on Sketch, so if you go check out the events on there, you'll get a little bit more information. Cool. Jack, 2020 has been a little bit of a crazy year.
A little bit, yes.
How have you adapted your game master style to fit in? Like, have you still been role playing?
Absolutely. I mean, there was a little sort of panic at first to how am I going to do this, but in addition, I have a couple of weekly games that I both play and game master in, but I also do a monthly game with a local library group where I run a game of Dungeons and Dragons with teens. And we wanted to make sure that program could still work. And the library helped me set up and connect with them. And we continued using Zoom to do sort of like the interaction part of this, of the session, while we use Discord for a lot of the, if I need to put up maps or images for various creatures or items that they find, or if there's got to be any sort of private communications back and forth between the game master and one or more of the players. It's one of the nice things about going online is it's a lot easier to do that without looking like you're sneaking off to the side to talk to someone. I don't know if you heard that. But that is one of the advantages. In addition to that, for Dungeons and Dragons especially, it's less important for Doctor Who role-playing, but a virtual tabletop is very useful. And there are a number of them out there. I already mentioned Discord, which you can use to set up a channel for a particular game or a group of games. So we have like a couple. I'm involved with a couple of different local gaming clubs. So we've got a couple of different Discord channels or groups for our different, gaming groups. And then within those, there's different channels for different games. So there's a lot of variety there, and Discord also does allow for some audio and audio video communication as well. So it's one thing you can have sort of all together. Though I find it's nice to have them. I've got a couple different screens here. I found that especially in a game mastering, it's nice to have a couple different screens around because you've got the map up on one, you've got the interaction, the face-to-face with the people on Zoom or Discord, and then you've got maybe a laptop open with another screen you can use to have the actual adventure that you're running. So it's nice to have a little real estate to spread all that out. It's not strictly necessary because I do have a couple of my team players in the library game who use a phone and like a laptop to run most of the stuff as well. So that's a possibility.
Cool. Jenna, you said that you started game mastering just recently, and I know that you've started game mastering especially a lot more since we've been virtual. How is being virtual different for you for a brand new, as a brand new game master?
It's been kind of interesting. A lot was I think some of the things I think I kind of miss is some of the tabletop interaction, being able to look around the table. But Zoom is a really nice way to still kind of get that feel with people, and you can still kind of do secret messages through chat to certain people to give information. And like Google Docs and Google Sheets has been a big help for me. I'm able to kind of like have my notes of what I kind of want going on in the game on one half of my laptop screen, and then be able to look at all of my players on the other one. I'm currently co-GMing with Libby in kind of like a side game with a couple players from our player group, and having that Google Docs and being able to edit and work on things real time has been really helpful while we're discussing things. And also Excel, Google Sheets, they're like Excel version for kind of creating a couple of maps that we can show players for kind of what's going on has been really helpful too. So taking advantage of some of those like sharing and interactive tools online has been a big help.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. One thing I'll also kind of put in here, not being around the table has been difficult a little bit. There's a lot of aspects of in-person gaming that you can't easily mimic over virtual. So like if you wanted to do, setting the ambiance, obviously you can't control the 7 different players that you have. You can't control their houses kind of to mimic exactly what you want. But since we have been mostly using Zoom, virtual backgrounds, if you're able, have been really good and really helpful to show different things, sharing files, obviously. But one thing that I've found, and you can do this in person too, and I'm sure plenty of game masters do it, doing a Spotify playlist. There was a game that we ran a couple of weeks ago where all of the players were in their own personal music box snow globe, and each person had their own individual theme music. So I sent out the link for that and then said, this one is what you're assigned to. Whenever it's your turn, you can turn it on and feel like you're actually in the moment kind of thing. Obviously screen sharing over Zoom and being able to share your computer sound is good, but if you're also trying to talk over it, it becomes competing. So it's a little difficult, but
yeah, definitely. But that's nice. I like that. Everyone hits their own theme song.
Yeah.
I like that. Very nice.
It was a really fun and interesting game to play in. I was lucky enough to be one of Libby's players for it. And it was interesting too, because you could have the playlist going and listening to other people's music slightly in the background where they were going through their own snow globe scenarios. It was fun too. And you could kind of get the feel in your round, you had about as long as this like 2-minute song was going to figure out what you were going to do and how you were going to do it. And like hoping you were making like mentality rolls to be able to remember what you did last time. Otherwise, it was like, I felt so bad for one of our players. She just kept missing it. So it was like, she was like starting over fresh for like 3 rounds. But it was like a fun and interesting game. And it was a fun way to do it.
Yeah, it was when you purposely split a party like that, it's never easy on a game master. It's even harder, I think, virtually, because you risk, everybody losing, their want to be at the table kind of thing, because there's just so much distractions in everybody's house that you can't really kind of keep a lid on it as easily as you could if everybody were at the game table. But yeah, time boxing the rounds in that manner especially, I think, worked really well, because then everyone got, really ingrained in what was happening with everybody else, because it was such a short snippet of time. But it also helps, kind of alleviate that metagaming, because everybody's at different stages. So even if someone figured it out very fast, it's like, okay, you have a mentality roll to know whether or not you remember any of this. If you miss, you can't really act on anything that anybody else has figured out. Blocking the metagaming aspect, obviously, but yeah, that was an interesting one to run and have. It was a lot of fun. Go ahead, Jack.
I'd say one thing you were saying, some of the things that you miss. I know when I have a large group that I'm running, I have this technique that I like to use around the table, where I'll go person to person to person to person, just to make sure that everyone has their opportunity to do something, have their characters have a little moment to interact or put their input in, because sometimes some players are less forward than others. Sometimes you can get 1 or 2 players who can dominate, but you've got a lot of players. Not all of them need, there doesn't need to be equal time, but there has to be a chance for everyone to have their bit. I find that a little more challenging doing it online. I mean, it's nice when you can have the screen that has all the boxes of everyone playing, but I know in some of my games, especially my library game, where I'll have 8 players and myself, and then like the library monitor, that it's either very small or we can't get everyone on the same page. So I find it's a little more difficult. I have to remember to cycle through the screens to make sure that I get everyone. So it's something I've tried to be more mindful of as I've been playing this year.
I think Zoom, I like the newest function in Zoom where it allows you to move people's like boxes, like their video boxes. As a game master and as a player, it's been really nice, like when an initiative order is set, or like an order of kind of like operation is set, to be able to move people's screens in that order. So you can kind of keep track of like, oh, Libby just went, Jack's up next, and then the next person, and then cycle back around. And if something in the order changes, you can move people's screens. Or if Jack, like you accidentally dropped, I can still add you back into where you were in the lineup and not be quite as confused like previously.
Yeah,
Nice. That's a good technique. Yeah,
totally agree.
yeah.
I was going to bring that up if you didn't, Jenna. Yeah, no, definitely. So for both of you, with the virtual environment that we're in, have you found that you're gaming more or less, since it's a little bit easier to catch people when we're all virtual versus having them drive and deal with work and all of this stuff?
So I know for myself, at first it seems like I was gaming more, and I was gaming with some people that I hadn't gamed with for a while, because it didn't matter, they were no longer local. We had people who had left our gaming group, but it was like, we're going to do this virtual anyway. Maybe we can have them show up for a guest spot and do something. So that was nice. It was nice to be able to game with some people I haven't gamed with for a while. But as things became more normalized with this stay at home, and people got busier with other things and doing that. So I found that it's getting to the point where we're getting back to normal with regards to scheduling, because there's when you get a number of adults together, there's always a problem getting everyone together at the same time. It's easier now, but there's still a challenge.
I think we're actually gaming more. Like Currently, we had a set date of like every Saturday we'd meet to game together, and it's something to look forward to during the week. Like, I get to see people on Saturday. We have kind of like moved our game group to Friday, so I'm hoping. I think as a group we're all interested too, and probably having like maybe a game every other Saturday in either the same system or like a different system, just to keep seeing people and gaming and having something to look forward to. And I think it's nice to have that thing to look forward to, whether it be a Friday night or a Saturday, knowing like, hey, I get to hop on, I get to see my friends, and I get to leave reality for a couple hours and be a different person and do something fun. Compared to just sitting in my living room, I can be on a different planet or stopping a war or helping two races that don't like each other at all come to a peaceful agreement of being either allies or having some sort of trust between them, which is fun, especially I think during times right now where I think we all can feel a little down or things can feel a little dark. Having a bright spot and something like that to kind of just get away for a while is something that's really nice and bright to have.
Yeah, I will say that some of my gaming has been, when I said I was doing a couple of horror related games, those have been harder to deal with this year than they have been in years past. So one of them is getting close to the end, and I'm actually glad for that. Another one is probably still going to be going on for quite some time, but I've been kind of like putting my head in a different place when I play in that game. So it's taken some adjustment. Do have a question for both of you. So when dealing with online role playing, dice rolling, online or at home, and I tell you what it is. What's your preference?
I like my shiny click clack dice. I hoard dice a lot. I've got a lot of dice, and COVID has not helped me on that. I've backed a lot of dice Kickstarters in the last couple of months, which I'm really excited to come in actually. There's been some really cool stuff hit Kickstarter lately, and I'm super excited to get them. Yeah, no, I love rolling my dice as a game master and as a player. I would hope that most GMs have, the trust in their players to tell them what they actually rolled. And just, keep it fair for everyone all around. And I would hope that most game masters, use their power of being behind a screen correctly, and not try and screw over their players. But yeah, I like rolling my dice. It's therapy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm kind of in the same box with Libby. I still roll physical dice. I really enjoy the trust that we have in our group, where we trust each other to be honest about dice rolls and how we understand. I think that some of the best moments in a role playing game comes from the critical failure. Like, failure makes things fun, and the moments that come from it and how you deal with it adds so much flavor to a story and what's going to happen. Like the computer person that's supposed to be hacking into the system 665, you've just fried the computer. The guards are coming. What do you all do now? And having that moment of panic and fun shenanigans of how do we get out of this situation? And so I'm really happy to be in a group where we trust each other and we don't need to do online rolling. I think it shows really that trust that we have built in each other too.
So I've done both, and I will say that in some respects, especially for the Dungeons and Dragons games, there are bots that you can get for, especially for like Discord or Roll20, and some of them have links to other systems where your character sheets are already set up, and that can really simplify a lot of things. And so in those cases, I'm happy to have the players roll online, but we always have one or two people who aren't comfortable with that. They like to, like you say, roll themselves, and I'm fine with that as well. Like you said, I don't see it so much as, I mean, yes, it is a trust thing, but I think that if you're gaming with someone for a while, you learn. It doesn't matter, if they're online, offline. That what you're gonna get from them. So I think where possible, I like, especially for some of the complex games, I like putting that on, online with those bots if it's available. But again, I leave it up to the player themselves and whether or not they do that. I do, however, like the bots to track initiative for me. That way I can just type a command and see who's up next. That is very nice.
I think Libby and I have been lucky enough that both of the main systems we've played in have been like 2d6, so it's not as complicated as D&D where you're like
Right,
rolling a
right.
20, add this modifier plus this proficiency plus this d4, which has made rolling our dice not with a bot easy and simple to us. Um, Initiative orders is always fun though. That's that. There's always like a did somebody type in chat what our initiative order is or where am I in the initiative order? Look in the chat and kind of keeping that. I think that's probably one of the hardest, I
Yeah.
think, things to keep track of in a virtual gaming environment. Just to make sure nobody gets skipped and around, or like if you're doing something, somebody comes in and snipes, and it's like, well, I was kind of supposed to be before them in the setup. I think with time we're getting better, like I said, with aligning the screens to who's next and having that in that chat. But I think it's a struggle in this virtual world that we'll continue to work with and hopefully have better solutions as we go.
Agreed. So quick question for both of you, as you kind of alluded to, Jack, actually. So how has, I guess, yours and your players, like your mental state and your emotional state, how has that during COVID, how has that affected the style of games that you run?
Well, like I said, I'm certainly enjoying some of the more fantastic ones that are sort of more grounded in fantasy and outside of the current world, much more enjoyable. And I like it gives me a lot of relief and some refreshes me playing these games. The horror ones depends on some of them I like. Some of the other ones have been a little too close to reality, let's say. And these were all ones that had begun. I haven't actually started a new game while this has been going on. Well, I will say, other than convention games, I did play in a number of games in Gen Con. But in those cases, it was superheroes and spies and things like that. So again, totally outside my reality. So enjoyable. I probably would try to tend towards, if I started up a new game myself, I'd try to tend more towards that type of game than something a little more serious at the moment.
I personally think it's a kind of a fine line that we're walking, and I think there are times as players that we do need that light and fantasy, and I think there are times as player getting to talk about more serious issues through gameplay and kind of working it out that way is better in helping facing kind of what is going on in the world. And I think having an open discussion, whether it's you as a player talking to your gym and being like, "Hey, I'm up for something a little more serious. I know times are not as happy as they once were, but I feel like it would help me in the long run." Or letting them know like I need something lighter, like where we're going isn't great. I think is the best option right now. And I think with our play group, it's been nice to be able to have those open conversations. And like I think we're good at being able to read each other and what we can and can't handle. I'm like going through this experience, I'm learning like that's a really important part is having that open line of communication of what kind of games do you want. Like as a player, what are you looking for so that your GM knows where they can lead you and guide you and that they're not crossing any lines. And I think especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, I think that's highlighted even more in the importance of that.
Yeah, agreed. There was for me as a game master, I've, we've had some conversations amongst players. You can always, do your best to try and read your players. Obviously not as easy to do when you're virtually. And Ninja notes have been great. The secret conversations between a game master and player has been great. You can kind of get a feel for what people are thinking. There was a game that I ran kind of early on in quarantine because I saw that all of our people were just they were burning out very quickly, and that was not sustainable. And so I ran this game where they go to they meet up with some fairies, and the fairies end up shrinking them and saying, we need you to deliver these gifts of hope to people. And I slightly put them in real time, where you're your players delivering hope to you're your character, but you're delivering hope to your player. So each of us, I had descriptions of what everybody's house layouts were and where they were on Earth, at what time they were doing, I asked the players, like, what were you doing, before bed, like right around bedtime? And do you have any animals that might come and attack your character? And how they would react. So everybody did eventually get like this little beacon of hope, absorbed into their player self from their character. So it was kind of like a gift, to be able to put yourself in that manner, just kind of take yourself out and say, okay, it's okay. You've got everybody's support behind you. Let's spread a little bit of happiness, a little bit of hope. You've got the support of your gaming group behind you during this. You're not alone. So that was a really interesting module to run. A lot of fun. Cats did play a big part of critical failures when trying to sneak into certain houses. Nobody died, thankfully, not by our cats. But yeah, that one was a lot of fun to run, and I think that's just one example of being able to take from your players' mental states and kind of try and turn it around a little bit, and just make it a little bit more fun for people. So.
Cool.
Speaking of, role-playing influences, Jack and Jenna, when you come up with games to run, do you have specific influences that you kind of go to for role-playing games? Or do you take directly from source books and kind of do that? Or do you do completely custom creates?
Well, for myself, I tend to take stuff from source books. I'll take stuff from movies or TV shows, and I just sort of mash it all together. I like to take, if I find something in one adventure that I find interesting, I'll steal a bit but I might put it in another adventure. I tend to stitch these things together and come up with something. So it's a lot of the work's already done, but I'm do enough rearranging and adjusting to make it my own.
For me, I think since our game's kind of a homebrew and we don't have like concrete source books, a lot of my stuff has come from music or television or movies and things like that, or even with video games, and seeing how I can adjust kind of the themes and what's going on there, and make it into a game for players to play in, and what's going on. And ironically enough, some of the things that I was taking from media, even kind of harken back to some old Doctor Who. Like one game that I recently ran for my players, I had like this childlike voice messing with the players, saying like they were part of a game and they were running through like a theme park trying to collect all their people back while fighting off animatronics, which they all loved me for so very much. But it reminded one of our players of Doctor Who and the Celestial Toymaker and what was going on there. So I think you can even kind of look at old Doctor Who and see maybe how you can twist that or how it might relate to things currently that you know of in media, and really I think bring back some fond memories for people too, for what's going on. And I think what I enjoy is creating things that make people happy and that they can kind of see and relate to too when I create a module. And like a big one going on that I'm co-doing with Libby is we've kind of taken the Power Ranger universe, because one of our characters is a Power Ranger, and are meshing it with Doctor Who in an interesting way, and letting that player with their character explore a lot of interesting things, which is fun to see the player get to do fun things and really get to explore his character's background and everything. And it's exciting for me as a GM to give them something that they look forward to and are excited when they get to do a game and have those interactions.
Yeah, totally agree. That's, I think, one of the biggest things that I love is when you get that feedback afterwards saying, this is what I needed this week. This is going to help me get through the next time. And I can't wait until we game again or until you game master again so that we can explore this more. Jack, were you going to say anything?
So just going off of some of what Jenna was saying about sort of teasing out ideas from old Doctor Who stories. One good resource for that is so the old FASA Doctor Who RPG had actual adventures that you could get and run, pretty much as, and those were wonderfully written. That a lot of detail, just really beautifully constructed adventures. The current Doctor Who role-playing game does have some shorter adventures, but it has one or two longer ones. But what it tends to do a lot is do what are called adventure seeds, and they do have basically source books for all the different doctors, and basically go through each story of each doctor and sort of pull out the gameable content from that story. And in addition to giving the stats of the monster and the robot from that episode, they will give a section of where this might lead in the future, and you could use as like a sequel or as an alternate story later on. So there are a lot of things like that scattered throughout all the books of the new role-playing game. And just to throw out a sort of resource, there are a lot of resources online for Doctor Who gaming. There's a proboards.com forum that deals specifically with the new Doctor Who Adventures in Time and Space game, and someone on there has put together a sort of like compiled all the scenarios and adventure seeds into like a list that you can download, like an Excel file of where they are and what they are. It also includes some adventures and seeds from the fanzine that Nick puts together. So it's going back to that as well.
Speaking of that fanzine, that Nick is still working on it. Nick, if you would like to come and talk to your fanzine, let people know where they can find it.
Sure, I'll pop on really quick. Never pass up a chance to talk about gaming a little bit. So for those people who are fans of Doctor Who role-playing games, everybody that's on this particular panel right here has been involved in or written or supported some of the content for a fan-released publication called The Diary of Doctor Who Role-Playing Games, which is often called DDWRPG. And it's a passion project for all the people here. Some people who are professional game designers and writers in their own time, and but creating content for people who like Doctor Who games. And if you do a Google search and search for Diary of Doctor Who Role-Playing Games or DDWRPG, you will find the back issues. I believe there are 21 or maybe 22 back issues of the fanzine. It has been a while since we've released an issue. I would say it's been like 4 years or 5 years even, which is quite a long time to go. People have asked, is the fanzine done or not? It is not done, but the reality is the professional projects that people get paid for have to come first, because that's how you make money. So those have to come first before sort of our fun fan Doctor Who project. So it's still being worked on. It will include some of the games that the Game Citadel has released at Chicago TARDIS. So there's a lot of content in the upcoming issue that I want to let people know about. And some of those will also be released as a standalone as well. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about that, Libby. Back to you, Libby.
Yeah, definitely. So Steve, it looks like we're coming up on time soon.
Pretty soon.
Okay. I guess one last question for everybody. Jenna, I know that you have mentioned multiple times the fact that you and I do a co-GM situation. If everyone would like to talk a little bit about that in their own circles.
Just for myself, so I've done co-GMing with a couple different people, and you really have to be in sync with that GM and be on the same page. I've had it work tremendously well, and I've had it be a train wreck. So it really depends, and you have to both have clear understanding of the sort of the outline of the game that you're doing, and basically what your time frame is. Where I've had problems in the past is when there's been a disconnect on where the characters were going to be at a particular given time, and there was some contradiction there and some interference.
My experience co-GMing so far has been wonderful. I think a lot of that is my co-GM is amazing, and she's also my best friend. So, like Jack said, when it comes to being on the same wavelength, I think we're on the same wavelength, and we're able to talk and discuss, and sometimes disagree and work through how we want to go through the story honestly and openly, and take each other's like comments into consideration when where we want the story to go. It also helps before we do any game, whether I'm playing an NPC in the game or Libby's playing an NPC in the game, we discuss exactly what we kind of want to happen in the game. We don't dictate what the other person who's playing in the game is going to like do, except for we do have some fun opening cutscenes for our players to help them get into it, where we do really discuss what we want them to know in those. Otherwise, it's kind of free reign and kind of a in the game. There's a little bit of back and forth, but I think having that clear discussion before every game, here's the plan of what we want to go, here's kind of the outline of where we expect things to go. It really helps us understand and be able to play off of each other and know where the plot line is going. And readjusting that plot line after everything happens again also helps keep us on track.
Yeah, agreed. And from what I've experienced, at least, there's a couple different ways that you can co-GM. First way is you can do every other game, or you're running a story arc, where Jenna might run one game and I might run the next one. And that's kind of like the dynamic that she and I have going forward. We've done it where, I'll start off a game and then relinquish control over to her so that she can run the rest of the game in whichever way she sees fit and whichever way I see fit. And then we kind of bounce off of that. The last way, which was probably the most difficult way that we've done it, is kind of mixing the two. We had basically an arc finale, a story arc finale, where there were 3 game masters all running 3 mini games within one game. So I would take control of it for the first part and then send off the players. We'd have like the who are you and what are you doing aspect, where you're just getting into playing your characters again. And then I would send them off, and they all got basically portal jumped into whatever other universe the other 2 game masters were in. So we had 3 mini games running all at once, and anytime someone had a critical failure on their dice that was an action-based move, the groups would switch up. So if you had a player or a character with a lot of information and all of a sudden they got jumped, well, you're missing a lot from that group. It turned out wonderfully. Honestly, it was about a 6-hour game, and we did that for close to 3 or 4 hours, and just everyone was able to successfully finish their missions. We did actually have player death in that one, or character death in that one. That was a little bit difficult. And then I brought them all together for the last hour where we could really finish off this story arc. So that was really interesting, a lot of planning. But for the most part, when planning it, I basically said, hey, I want you to run a mini module within this. Like, here's your guidelines, and just take it away. So it was a very unique game. There were about 15 people, I think, at that game.
Nice.
But yeah, that's kind of how co-GMs work. Yeah, it's been a good time.
Yeah. Just a quick notes towards the end, just about setup. So, the 3 of us are wearing headphones and all that. And I do think that in a gaming situation, when there's going to be a lot of crosstalk and all that, it is very useful to have those things. They don't have to be wireless. You can have, I've used all of these. I've got a little earbuds with a little microphone on it, and this thing here. And the other thing is lighting. It doesn't really matter so much, but it's nice to be able to see everyone clearly. And one thing I've done is just have a little desk lamp off to the side that bounces off of one of these reflectors I've got for my car to keep the sun out. You just put it, I just got it behind my monitor, and I click that on, and you can see me. just a couple notes.
Well, thank you all. I think we're at time. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you everyone on Facebook and YouTube that is checking out the panel. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, reach out. You know, I think pretty much all of us are on Facebook. If you have any questions, you can find us easily.
Okay.
And hopefully we see you all next year on site, the Game Citadel at Chicago TARDIS.
All right. Thanks a lot, Libby. There's a lot of good information there for gamers and virtual gamers, both. Thanks. We've got, I want to mention a panel. I'm going to tell you what panel's coming up next, but first I want to plug a panel that's coming up at 7 because it's really, I think is going to be really interesting. Derwin Mack is going to present a panel telling us all about what the St. John Ambulance badge on the TARDIS is all about. And he's the right person to do it as the curator of the St. John Ambulance Museum in Toronto. So I'm really looking forward to that. Nick, do you have anything you want to add at this point?
There's not a lot of housekeeping that needs to happen right now. I just am going to encourage you to also mention the upcoming panel, which I know you will, Steve. Also, a couple more links have been posted of some of our other vendor highlights. So please check them out, our Artist Alley vendors, and give them support. I just really want to encourage that. I also want to encourage people to check out DoctorWhoShop.com, which is Dean Smith's shop. If you would be shopping for Doctor Who collectibles in our dealer's room and stuff this year, that would be the place that I'd encourage people to go right now. So
DoctorWhoStore.com.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doctor Who's Store. I apologize. DoctorWhoStore.com, yes.
And visit ChicagoTARDIS.com to find the information on our charities. If you are appreciating this free weekend of events, please donate some money to one of the charities there in the convention's name. At 6 o'clock at the top of the hour, we have My Dalek Has a Family, a panel about generational and family cosplay and cosplaying over the age of 40. So be here for that. Otherwise, remember to leave feedback in Sketch. If you missed my previous announcement, I apologize for, we didn't have it turned on at first. It is turned on now, so you can do that now. So we're sorry about that. It works now. Otherwise, thanks all you guys, and onward, Chicago.